1. Introduction. RAWSEP View. The United States government was on track in the Biden administration to reduce the prices for both clean energy heat pumps and clean energy electric cars. Trump tariffs are expected to upset those plans to prevent future air pollution and prevent climate change. The United States government should, instead of certifying wood stoves as safe when they are not safe, go forward with regulations that ban wood stove use and direct government money for use of forest refuse only. For home building and furniture building. For just a few examples of use of forest products for non-burning uses, it is well known from scientific and medical research that wood burning is a substantial source of PM 2.5 emissions, yet the wood burning industry uses the scientifically debunked theory named carbon neutrality of wood burning to argue that wood burning replacing coal burning in industry, and in a trickle-down argument that wood burning should continue for home heating should continue. Presumably because it is called renewable. Wood may be renewable in the sense that a tree can be planted in the place of a cut-down burned tree, but it takes centuries or decades for the newly planted tree to attain the stature of the cut-down burned tree. During those centuries or decades, photosynthesis, which converts CO2 to oxygen and so sequesters some carbon, will not take place at the same rate as photosynthesis was performed previously, and wood burning emits both CO2 and PM 2.5, and PM 2.5 is not absorbed by trees, so PM 2.5 is not diminished by planting a tree in the place of a cut-down and burned tree. In fact, a living tree closes its pores against the presence of PM 2.5 from nearby wood burning, just as humans hold their breath in the presence of PM 2.5 from nearby wood burning. And when a tree closes its pores, the level of photosynthesis that absorbs CO2 pollution goes down. Wood burning emits 90% PM 2.5 particulate matter of 2.5 micrometer size, the perfect size to infiltrate the human lungs, setting off a cascade of human health problems and early deaths. Contrary to many beliefs, wood burning emits 2.8 times the PM 2.5 as the fossil fuel coal burning, and wood burning emits 450 times the PM 2.5 as the fossil fuel natural gas burning. Replacing coal burning with wood burning creates more air pollution in the form of CO2 and PM 2.5 than coal burning. This emission data comes from testing the cleanest burning wood stove in the United Kingdom, the eco-design wood stove, and international convention does not count the emissions from wood burning. The emissions from wood burning are erased from all countries around the world when calculating if each country has met its climate goals. This non-counting or erasure of wood burning emissions data from climate goals does not mean wood burning emissions do not exist. RAWSEP View. Purple air. PM 2.5 monitors hanging from the eaves of the house of a near neighbor should be used to measure the level of PM 2.5 in the air hyperlocally in the yards of near neighbors of indoor residential wood burners. If PM 2.5 levels exceed World Health Organization standards of 5 micrograms per cubic meter annually, then that evidence of air pollution from wood burning should lead to the shutdown of that indoor residential wood burning appliance, one appliance at a time if necessary.
Hi, my name is Lily. Andrew gave you the intro to residents against wood smoke emission particulates and their concern for air pollution from indoor residential wood burning. Residents against wood smoke emission particulates, or RAWSEP, would like every near neighbor of an indoor residential wood burner whose wood smoke enters their yards and sickens the near neighbors to have a purple air PM 2.5 monitor hanging from the eaves of their home to measure the level of PM 2.5 entering their yards. That measurement of air pollution should be used as evidence of unnecessary air pollution, and each indoor residential wood burner should be shut down based on that evidence, one indoor residential wood burner at a time if necessary. The presentation by Andrew ended at 2 minutes 5 seconds. The same presentation by Emma starts at 2 minutes 3 seconds before the end of this podcast. So I am Lily, your timekeeper, and you can start the next podcast at 2 minutes 5 seconds in if you would not like to see the presentation by Andrew a second time. This presentation by me, Lily, ends at 5 minutes in. What you will see in the main content of this RAWSEP podcast will be news about air pollution from indoor residential wood burning and how that air pollution is being combated by ordinary people just like you who are unfortunately near neighbors of indoor residential wood burners at this time. There will also be news about unnecessary and highly polluting use of wood as fuel in industrial wood burners and preventable air pollution from wood burning wildfires. There will also be news about air pollution from PM 2.5 from gas-powered cars. There will also be news about airborne diseases which are also preventable with vaccines such as COVID-19 and measles and whooping cough, to name just a few. In 2025, residents against wood smoke emission particulates is also concerned with combating the Trump destruction of government funding for programs which protect human health through the Department of Health and Human Services, and Trump destruction of programs which fund the science and medical research plan to protect human health from preventable illnesses. Protecting human health is a patriotic act, and our defense against enemies is weakened if we are not as healthy as we can be. Heat pump rebates are now offered by the federal government, distributed through the eligible United States, are available in 2025 and are the best, cleanest, and now cheapest alternative to indoor residential wood burning if that burning is actually done to purportedly save money. Wind and solar as sources of the electricity that powers heat pumps and electric cars is also cheaper than burning wood. The adverse health effects that are caused by indoor residential wood burning also come at a cost to near neighbors, both in shortening and ending their lives and in actual hospital, clinic, and funeral costs. Instead of being compensated monetarily, near neighbors should instead be able to achieve immediate relief by stopping indoor residential wood burning in their hyper-localized neighborhoods, which relief readings from purple air PM 2.5 monitors used as evidence of air pollution will help them achieve. Welcome to news about hopeful scientific and medical achievements that will also help us achieve the goal of clean air to breathe.
Webisode 57DHXYG October 7, 2025, Wood burners are bad for you. Here is why you did not notice. In Webisode 57DHXYG 1, France Total Energies plant has gas-fired power plants. Total Energies now has a battery farm in Dunkirk, France. 2, RFK Junior RAWSEP View lack of scientific and medical credibility, along with tax breaks for the rich at the expense of a healthcare safety net and access to vaccines for the poor and middle class, is the modus operandi of RFK Junior. 3. Headlines: 3C California San Francisco Bay Area spare the air alerts to become more frequent after air regulators lower threshold for Google alerts. 4A Why is smoke a health concern? The United States Environmental Protection Agency. 4B United States swap your boiler for a money-saving heat pump. Popular science. 4D California San Francisco wealthy San Francisco residents outraged by trendy new wood-fired grill restaurant. 4. The United Kingdom RAWSEP View. The editor of RAWSEP believes that this is misinformation or disinformation put out to farmers in the United Kingdom that heat pumps are expensive is deliberate and possibly put out by the fossil fuel industry and the wood-burning industry. The UK government is providing financial incentives to make heat pumps affordable for everyone. And as usual, the fixation on economic arguments, even if those economic arguments are not true, convinces some that these economic arguments are practical and based on reality. How about starting a discussion with true facts about negative health effects and early deaths? For F United Kingdom, wood burners are bad for you. Here is why you did not notice. 4G Europe indoor wood burners linked to a decline in lung function. 4H Europe indoor wood burning in affluent areas problematic for lung health. Main content. 0.1 Democrats still have no idea what went wrong. The party progressives seem to think the problem is not with their platform, but with voters. RAWSEP View. I do not recognize the political orientation of The Nation magazine. This writer may be the resident conservative/Republican. Every Friday on PBS, the editor of The Nation discusses the political events of the week with a panel of journalists who generally recognize that Trump and his party are governing in a dictatorial, militaristic way led by the whims of a recognizably stupid individual who cozies up to Putin, Orban, and other dictators in a way traitorous to United States interests. If the Democratic Party is interested in winning elections against Republicans, Democrats should be confident that the Democratic Party represents democracy, a social safety net that protects economic justice and social equity, and which created programs which mitigated air pollution and climate change in order to protect human health and the health of the planet. That can also be summed up, as it was in the article, as a Democratic Party that should inspire and mobilize communities to advance economic justice, social equity, climate action, and protect our democracy. What is not to like about that? If Democrats were suddenly not thinking of those aims, I would think they were trying to emulate the Republican Party and irrationally trying to emulate stupid, cruel, and economically unsuccessful policies. A democratic political party should represent all economic groups in a society, and the Democratic Party does. The Republican Party is a party for billionaires and those who delude themselves that becoming a billionaire is just around the corner, except now they work a low-wage job in. That way, the problem is the voter who does not recognize his own economic interests. Yet perhaps the Democratic Party should spend 80% of their time making the economic argument that they are for all economic classes, but 20% of their time should be spent working to mitigate climate change and thus saving the health and lives of the people of America. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity. In relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. The Nation, October 7, 2025. Today, on a recent panel of progressive activists analyzing what went wrong in the 2024 election, the author, activist, and failed political candidate Qasim Rashid spoke with confidence about the way forward for the Democratic Party. The problem, he insisted, was not that Democrats had strayed too far from public opinion, but that the party had grown too solicitous of it. Saying the right thing timidly, he proclaimed, is less effective than saying the wrong thing loudly. The Rashid argument was anything but timid, and it certainly played well in the Washington, D.C. room, where the Progressive Donor Network Way to Win was holding a confab called Persuasion 2025. Yet Rashid meant for this event to be more than just a pep talk among allies. His call for a confident, undiluted progressive platform is how you see people flip red seats to blue, he said. The Rashid track record as a candidate does not quite bear out this confident assessment. He has run for office 3 times, falling short every time. In 2020, he lost his race for Congress by 16 points in a district Joe Biden lost by 4. He went on to found a firm specializing in relational messaging to inspire and mobilize communities to advance economic justice, social equity, climate action, and protect our democracy. It is called, unironically, just when the purpose of this conference was to reassert the strategy of the left for regaining control of the Democratic Party and, at least in theory, a national governing majority. Yet beneath the bold proclamations, one could detect an undercurrent of defensiveness. After almost a decade of nearly unchallenged supremacy, the progressive movement hold on the Democratic Party is no longer certain. 0.2 RAWSEP View. Greed, or at least a primary interest in making money from the energy business, whether clean energy or dirty energy, whether it hurts human health or not, is the dominant theme of these news stories. 1. In France, Total Energies, owner of a series of successful natural gas power plants, is expanding into battery storage for renewable energy. In the case of Total Energies, the clean energy is wind or solar, the clean renewable energies, but Total Energies still keeps its hand in fossil fuel energy of natural gas, although natural gas is the cleanest fossil fuel to burn. To take a brief break from that type of greed in the energy sector in the second story. 2. RFK Junior and his close associates Casey and Callie means a brother and sister duo who wish to profit from the Maha movement have a method to their madness of denying vaccines to the American people, dismantling scientific and medical research, shutting down rural hospitals, and spreading disinformation in hopes it will help Trumpism win elections. The second very personal aim of Casey and Callie means is to send federal money into health savings accounts of the people who have disposable income, the rich, for quack medical supposed cures to resurgences of ancient illnesses and resurgences of of new pandemics caused by Maha denial of vaccines and resurgences of everyday sickness caused by Maha-fueled discontinuation of scientific and medical research on medical cures. Casey Means is the head of True Med, which is a corporation that is not truthful in its medical and scientific claims and does not cure illnesses, while curing illness is a tenet of medicine at least that taught in medical school, with the motto first, do no harm in the modern age. 3 with headlines, we are back to greed in pursuing dirty energy for profit. 3 a world science and medicine nature RAWSEP View, a scientist is interested in the natural world and presumably would like to mitigate climate change. 3b United States movie bro culture RAWSEP View. Is this bro culture found in this movie palatable to non-brothers? These brothers resemble Democrats of 2025. Is there hope for brothers, even these movie star brothers? 3c United States Trump versus mitigation of air pollution from indoor residential wood burning and Trump versus mitigation of air pollution from industrial wood burning RAWSEP View. As part of an economically irrational plan, Trump plots more logging in U.S. forests. 3d United States lawsuit over solar funding denial RAWSEP View. As part of an economically irrational plan, Trump plots to take solar power away from poor and middle-class Americans. 3 United States coal burning is no longer economical and coal burning contribution to air pollution and coal burning contribution to enhancing climate change RAWSEP View. As part of an economically irrational plan, Trump plots to reopen already closed air polluting coal plants in America. 3f Maryland lawsuit over climate change RAWSEP View. As part of an economically irrational plan, Trump plots to reinvigorate air pollution in cities across America. 3g climate change mitigation science RAWSEP View. As part of an economically irrational plan, Trump plots to deny further funding leading to new scientific ideas culled from Nature about how to mitigate climate change in America. 3h California Paradise movie about Paradise wildfire RAWSEP View. A review of a movie about the real-life adverse effects of air pollution from wood burning. 3i South Carolina RAWSEP View. The house of a judge viewed as Trump enemy is burned down. RAWSEP mourns the air pollution from the wood burning as well as mourns the Trump plotting to evade justice from the courts. 3j United Kingdom RAWSEP View. In the UK as well as the US, there are concerns about the effect of unnecessary air pollution from radiation caused by predictable human error when operating any nuclear plant. For that reason, nuclear energy cannot be truly called clean energy, and again back to greed while pursuing dirty energy generation. 4d California San Francisco wealthy San Francisco residents outraged by trendy new wood-fired grill restaurant. 4 United Kingdom RAWSEP View. The editor of RAWSEP believes that this is misinformation or disinformation put out to farmers in the United Kingdom that heat pumps are expensive is deliberate and possibly put out by the fossil fuel industry and the wood burning industry. The UK government is providing financial incentives to make heat pumps affordable for everyone, and as usual the fixation on economic arguments, even if those economic arguments are not true, convinces some that these economic arguments are practical and based on reality. How about starting a discussion with true facts about negative health effects and early deaths? That would be hard for even hardened farmers to hear, but that would start a discussion with the truth about indoor residential wood burning for home heating. Insulation of homes, whether in rural areas or urban areas, should be a given. If there is not adequate insulation, the homeowner should get it. Heat pumps do not require additional insulation, but from a practical point of view, adequate insulation should be looked into. Insulation does not break the bank. Any home with walls is insulated against the elements, including the cold. United Kingdom dwellings have a reputation of not being well insulated, at least in comparison with United States homes, since many homes still being used in the United Kingdom are hundreds of years old. Alternative renewable fuels is probably a code word for wood-fired stoves, since fossil fuels are not renewable, so this appears to be false advertising for the wood burning industry in the United Kingdom. The air pollution adverse health effects of burning wood are not mentioned in this article. Wood burning emits 2.8 times the PM 2.5 as coal burning. Wood burning emits 450 times the PM 2.5 as the fossil fuel. Natural gas burning. This data comes from testing the cleanest burning wood stove in the UK, the eco-design wood stove. To address the economic argument, as mentioned before, the UK government provides financial incentives for purchasing heat pumps that in 2025 work down to 40 degrees below zero, double as air conditioners, and lower monthly electric bills immediately. And finally, 4h Europe indoor wood burning in affluent areas problematic for lung health. Main content. 1 France Total Energies plant has gas-fired power plants. Total Energies now has a battery farm in Dunkirk, France. French energy giant sees opportunity in the volatile electricity market. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. The New York Times. A writer visited a battery farm in Dunkirk, France, October 7, 2025. Early in the 2020s, Total Energies installed more than 24 industrial-scale batteries on a strip alongside the rusting tanks and pipes of a former gas-fired power plant. Some long-standing refinery employees now make the rounds at the battery farm, making sure the devices are functioning properly. The batteries are connected to the power grid. They kick in with almost instant bursts of electricity when needed, such as when a nearby aluminum plant, a huge consumer of power, fires up. Every time a large industrial company starts a machine, the grid goes down, so you need more power on it. Although it is still mainly an oil and gas producer, Total Energies views batteries as an attractive investment that can profit from the tectonic changes that are occurring in the electricity field. Total Energies is an outlier among big oil and gas producers, which have shied away or pulled back from investing in renewable electricity, wary of tight regulation and lackluster profits. But Total Energies is aiming to invest up to $4 billion a year in electric power, calculating that it can be lucrative with the right approach. The goal is to double the share of electricity in the energy output in the company to around 20% by the end of the decade. The French giant figures that it can profit by helping clients and grid operators adapt to changes hitting the power markets. We try to target the markets that have strong potential. It means that they have growth and volatility. The Dunkirk unit is concentrating on Britain, Germany, and Texas. Along with France, demand for power is expected to surge in the coming years because of increased consumption by electric vehicles, data centers, and other sources. The growing number of wind and solar farms whose output fluctuates with the breeze and sunlight is helping to create large swings in the availability of power. The more renewables you have, the more volatility you have for. Example, in March, German electricity prices went from €0 per megawatt hour at noon when solar energy peaked to €165 per megawatt hour at 6 p.m. when renewable energy dropped off. According to Total Energies, the gas turbine inside the Tool power plant can rev up in as little as a half hour, depending on circumstances. At the same time, coal and some gas-fired generating plants are closing down, reducing pollution, but also removing what has been a stabilizing influence on the power grid. The turbines at the core of these plants also provide a rotating force known as inertia that helps regulate the grid at times of fluctuation. Batteries can perform this function only when paired with special equipment. The rapid growth of renewable energy, especially solar power, also formed the backdrop of a major blackout that paralyzed Spain and Portugal in April. The grid has become increasingly complex to manage. The incident was likely to lead to greater demand and higher revenue for grid management services from batteries. These batteries can earn money in several ways. Grid operators pay battery owners to respond to short-term system imbalances. The devices can also be used in arbitrage, taking power from the grid to charge when electricity prices are low and pumping it out when they are higher by sucking up surplus output from, for example, solar farms during the day and then discharging that power later. Batteries help to balance the presence of renewables on the grid, otherwise the solar power would need to be disconnected. What we see in Europe is quite a boom in battery projects. She estimated that energy providers spent €7.3 billion on batteries in 2024 and forecast that battery capacity in Europe would increase around fivefold by the end of the decade. Unlike other alternative energy technologies that are often encouraged by subsidies, batteries just get built because the expected revenue that they can make is so high. Batteries could earn hefty profits in the mid-double digits. Batteries are useful for quick responses. Every second we can be called to regulate the grid. Batteries shift from charging to discharging frequently during the day, but the batteries at Dunkirk can fire into the grid for only an hour. So Total Energies uses gas-fired power plants when more electricity is needed over longer periods, such as frigid spells that stoke demand for heat. The power station can start up in a half hour in some circumstances, and there are few limits on how long it can operate. It can also generate far more electricity than the batteries at Dunkirk. The crew of the plant, of around 30 employees, keep it on constant standby, waiting for a request to fire up from RT, the National Transmission Operator. Failure to come through can result in fines. The Tool unit ran frequently in 2022 when there were unusual outages at the nuclear plants that dominate French power generation. More recently, the facility has seen low use as the aftershocks from the energy crisis of Europe have reduced industrial activity. It is a more depressed market that we have currently, but past years have shown it can change quite rapidly. 2. RFK Junior RAWSEP View: lack of scientific and medical credibility, along with tax breaks for the rich at the expense of a healthcare safety net and access to vaccines for the poor and middle class, is the modus operandi of RFK Junior. From the article headline, The Real Goal of Make America Healthy Again, woo-woo treatments for the rich, shrinking healthcare for the poor. Alexander Avila, The Guardian. The real goal of Make America Healthy Again, woo-woo treatments for the rich, shrinking healthcare for the poor. Alexander Avila. A new coterie of advisors around RFK Jr. is shaping the already exclusionary health system of the U.S. for the worse. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. The Guardian, October 6, 2020. 5. The Trump Make America Healthy Again, or MAHA, with its central figurehead U.S. Health Secretary RFK Jr. has canceled $500 million of vaccine research, fired thousands of health agency workers, and promoted an unsubstantiated link between Tylenol and autism. But what underlying vision ties the MAHA project together? Its fundamental claims quickly devolves into a mistrust of vaccines, health institutions, and mainstream medical treatments. The MAHA attracts concerned mothers, conspiratorial health food CEOs, conservative social critics, and alternative medicine practitioners. One of the central architects of the movement is Callie Means, current special government employee at the Department of Health and Human Services (HHS) and direct advisor to RFK Jr., a close friend of the RFK Jr. The Callie Means political debut came in 2024 when he and his sister Casey Means, an author of the best-selling health and wellness book Good Energy, and promoted it to right-leaning audiences on the Tucker Carlson Show and the Joe Rogan Experience. Together, the Means siblings built and spread the MAHA message to millions of right-wing listeners. The siblings pair their work with a carefully calibrated backstory. Callie tells stories of corruption from his time as a former lobbyist for the food and pharmaceutical industry. Casey, a Stanford-trained physician, retired from the medical profession feeling disillusioned with its profit-driven and over-specialized approach to health. They tout their former insider status as proof of their populist credentials, a strategy so effective that it landed them insider positions in the Trump administration. As previously mentioned, Callie as an advisor at the U.S. Health Department and Casey as the Trump nominee for Surgeon General. The siblings are set to become some of the most powerful figures in American health. But if you, as MAHA evangelists, say do your own research, you will find that Vanity Fair reported that Callie Means has never registered as a lobbyist in the U.S. and that former employers dispute him ever having worked for food and pharmaceutical clients. In response, Callie Means said, "I stand by everything I have said." Meanwhile, in the LA Times and Vanity Fair, former colleagues of Casey have suggested that her departure from medicine was motivated more by stress than disillusionment, but perhaps misrepresenting parts of your backstory is simply a part of the growing pains of building a new political movement. So what do these public health newcomers offer in terms of concrete policy? In interviews, Callie often repeats a rhetorical question: why should we work to increase healthcare access if we know that the system is broken? Instead, he argues Americans should focus on holistic root causes of ill health, which is why he was a founder of TrueMed, a platform connecting tax-free health savings account HSA owners with a marketplace of wellness products. Visit the TrueMed website, and his intended audience becomes clear: Americans who shop for $1,000 cold plunge baths, 5-figure personal saunas, and flashy Peloton bikes. motorbikes, as Cali candidly explained on a podcast. The true ultimate goal is to redirect every cent of the $4.5 trillion the U.S. spends on programs subsidizing the healthcare of poor and elderly people into accounts like HSAs for people to spend at their discretion on mainstream and wellness medicine. The latter marketplace is hardly a fringe cottage industry. It represents a $6.3 trillion global wellness sector, a loosely defined and largely unregulated industry of brands and influencers promoting a state of holistic health. Cali is deeply invested in the flourishing of the wellness industry. His sister Casey similarly has roots in the wellness industry, where she started with a popular newsletter and podcast that grew into a multi-million-dollar health wearables startup. Levels as agents of the Maha cause. Cali and Casey are not just using their new national platform to promote their own businesses, they are turning Maha into the new business plan of the wellness industry. So far, the Trump administration is putting pieces of that plan into place. The recently passed Big Beautiful Bill includes provisions to expand HSA use, directly benefiting Cali True Med in the wellness sector at the expense of taxpayers. More consequential in the bill are the $1 trillion in Medicaid and Medicare cuts, which not only slashes coverage for poor and elderly people, but also strips funding from rural hospitals, community health centers, and nursing homes. Maha likes to frame itself as the David to the Goliath of big pharma. But the pharmaceutical industry, $1.6 trillion global valuation, pales in comparison to the wellness industry, $6.3 trillion. When we begin to understand Maha as simply another Goliath, its most nonsensical positions suddenly seem very sensical. The RFK Junior sudden embrace of digital health wearables, despite once calling them tools for surveillance, makes sense knowing that Maha superstar Casey, a founder of a health wearables company, it makes sense that none of the Maha figureheads oppose the Trump cuts to healthy school lunch programs or his subsidies for the commodity crops that fuel the overprocessed food industry. It makes sense that Cali and his wellness entrepreneur friends can launch an organization called End Chronic Disease to push HSA expansion, even as Trump cuts billions of dollars for chronic disease research, when Cali attempts to rhetorically justify cuts to Medicaid and Medicare by asking why provide more access to a broken system. He touches on the Maha central contradiction for those of a certain socioeconomic class. American healthcare is not broken. After all, there is a reason why Saudi royals frequently seek medical care in the U.S., or why the U.S. attracts a nearly $8 billion medical tourism market. What is broken is the American healthcare system, the inherent injustice of subjecting human rights to the logic of private markets. Americans need more access to a broken system when lack of access is the essence of its brokenness. But if Maha were to address this problem in any meaningful way, it would cease to exist by instead making the problem worse by funneling public money into the private hands of the wellness industry and exacerbating the healthcare disparities that produce systemic rage. Maha will always have something to complain about, a message for those who are suffering and customers to sell it to. But the problem with a grift that deals in life and death is that actually you may not always have customers. If Maha successfully decimates public health spending at a time when Americans face, in the Cali words, almost genocidal levels of chronic disease among children, who will survive to buy what Maha sells next? When the Maha Trump health spending cuts close the last rural hospitals and clinics in the very counties that voted for him, the future of American public health may depend on whether these communities reach the ballot box before the grave. World Science and Medicine Nature RAWSEP View, a scientist is interested in the natural world and presumably would like to mitigate climate change. From the article headline, Nobel Committee unable to reach prize winner who is living his best life hiking off-grid. Nobel prizes. The Guardian. United States movie bro culture. RAWSEP View. Is this bro culture found in this movie palatable to non-brothers? These brothers resemble Democrats of 2025. Is there hope for brothers, even these movie star brothers? From the article headline, one battle after another starring Leonardo DiCaprio, one bladder after another. Why bros are finally having to queue for the Lou Emma Beddington. The Guardian. United States Trump versus mitigation of air pollution from indoor residential wood burning and Trump versus mitigation of air pollution from industrial wood burning. RAWSEP View. As part of an economically irrational plan, Trump plots more logging in U.S. forests. From the article headline, outcry as Trump plots more roads and logging in U.S. forests, you can almost hear the chainsaws. Virginia. The Guardian. United States lawsuit over solar funding denial. RAWSEP View. As part of an economically irrational plan, Trump plots to take solar power away from poor and middle-class Americans. From the article headline, groups sue Trump EPA over $7 billion in solar for all grants. The New York Times. United States coal burning is no longer economical, and coal burning contribution to air pollution and coal burning contribution to enhancing climate change. RAWSEP View. As part of an economically irrational plan, Trump plots to reopen already closed air-polluting coal plants in America. From the article headline, opinion, the Trump coal plan is doomed. The New York Times. Maryland lawsuit over climate change. RAWSEP View. As part of an economically irrational plan, Trump plots to reinvigorate air pollution in cities across America. From the article headline, Maryland judges weigh whether cities can sue over climate change. The New York Times. Climate change mitigation science. RAWSEP View. As part of an economically irrational plan, Trump plots to deny further funding, leading to new scientific ideas culled from Nature about how to mitigate climate change in America. From the article headline, undersea bacteria feast on methane. Can they help cool the planet? The New York Times. California Paradise movie about paradise wildfire. RAWSEP View. A review of a movie about the real-life adverse effects of air pollution from wood burning. From the article headline, logs falling from the sky, the harrowing true story behind wildfire drama, the lost bus. Paul Greengrass. The Guardian. South Carolina RAWSEP View. The house of a judge viewed as Trump enemy is burned down. RAWSEP mourns the air pollution from the wood burning, as well as mourns the Trump plotting to evade justice from the courts. From the article headline, fire engulfs home of South Carolina judge who had received death threats. U.S. politics. The Guardian. United Kingdom RAWSEP View. In the UK, as well as the U.S., there are concerns about the effect of unnecessary air pollution from radiation caused by predictable human error when operating any nuclear plant. For that reason, nuclear energy cannot be truly called clean energy. From the article headline, nuclear power plant and health concerns. It is Sellafield or nothing. What life is like growing up in the shadow of the oldest nuclear site in Europe. Young people. The Guardian. 3A headline. Headlines: The New York Times, October 6, 2025. Artificial intelligence. Elon Musk gambles on sexy AI companions. The New York Times. Artificial intelligence. OpenAI agrees to use computer chips from AMD. The New York Times. Aviation flight delays begin as air traffic staffing shortages worsen. The New York Times. Bari Weiss. Republican Paramount buys the Bari Weiss Free Press, starting a new era at CBS News. The New York Times. Bari Weiss. Republicans how Bari Weiss of the Free Press won the top job at CBS News. The New York Times. Business discount stores. Why did Walmart just buy a shopping mall? The New York Times. Business phones. Verizon bets on the PayPal former chief to lead its next chapter. The New York Times. California. Sacramento. Consumers. Medical care. Aviation accident. Medical helicopter crashes on highway in Sacramento. The New York Times. Civil or criminal lawsuits. Possible pit bulls. Dogs killed 2-year-old at daycare center while owner slept. Police say. The New York Times. Climate change. Deadly North Dakota tornado was a rare EF5. Weather Service says. The New York Times. Consumers. Alcohol craft breweries struggle as sales and appetites wane. The New York Times. Consumers. Amusement parks Sunday special. The enduring power of amusement parks. The New York Times. Consumers. Astronomy. 2 comets are moving into your night skies in October. How to watch. The New York Times. Consumers. Directions if your North Star is lost. New techniques can point you south. New York Times. Consumers. Education. Nearly 20% fewer international students traveled to the U.S. in August. The New York Times. Consumers. Energy cost opinion. Are your energy costs rising? The New York Times. Consumers. Gardening. The 31 best gifts for gardeners for 2025 reviews by Wirecutter. Consumers. Housing and ashes of Amazon fight tensions emerge in huge bet on in YC Housing. The New York Times. Consumers. Phones. How to reduce screen time tips to put your phone down. The New York Times. Consumers. Reading opinion. How to save a book festival. The New York Times. Consumers. Retirees. Medicare costs more. Retirees are living on less and losing a means of help to pay for Medicare. The New York Times. Consumers. Transportation in Central Park. Pedestrians. Horses and e-bikes battle for space. The New York Times. Dirty energy opinion. The Trump coal plan is doomed. The New York Times. Environmentalist RAWSEP View supporter of regulation of wood burning in the United Kingdom. From the article headline. Greta Thunberg among hundreds from Gaza aid flotilla deported by Israel. The New York Times. Environmentalist groups sue EPA over $7 billion in solar for all grants. The New York Times. Illinois Trump military live updates. Illinois sues Trump over National Guard deployments to Chicago. The New York Times. Illinois Trump military. Pritzker says federal agents are trying to make Chicago a war zone. The New York Times. Maryland climate lawsuits not decided yet. Maryland judges weigh whether cities can sue over climate change. The New York Times. Medicine and science. How much do you really know about sleep? The New York Times. Medicine and science. How to improve your hip mobility. The New York Times. Medicine and science. Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine is awarded for work on immune systems. The New York Times. Medicine and science. Nobel Prizes 2025. What to know. The New York Times. Medicine and science. Should the autism spectrum be split apart? The New York Times. Medicine and science. What to eat and drink for a good sleep at night. The New York Times. Music. 50 pianos rumble in 11,000 strings at Park Avenue Armory. The New York Times. Music in one battle after another. A Tom Petty song enhances a scene. The New York Times. Music with the life of a showgirl. Taylor Swift keeps getting bigger. Can the music keep up? The New York Times. New York City mayoral race opinion. Attacks on the Zoran Mamdani youth will not save the old guard. The New York Times. New York City mayoral race opinion. The Mamdani charm offensive and crash course in how to govern. The New York Times. New York City mayoral race. Zoran Mamdani has ambitious plans for New York. How much will they cost? The New York Times. New York City mayor RAWSEP View Trump appointment in his future. From the article headline. Where in the world is Eric Adams? Try Albania. The New York Times. Oregon Trump military judge blocks National Guard deployment in Oregon as Trump expands his targets. The New York Times. Oregon Trump military opinion pushback at Trump and troops in Portland. The New York Times. RFK Junior lack of knowledge of medicine and science. How private equity oversees the ethics of drug research. The New York Times. Russell fought the grim reaper of the government shutdown. The New York Times. Science. Undersea bacteria feast on methane. Can they help cool the planet? The New York Times. Supreme Court for now rejects Google bid to block changes to App Store. The New York Times. Supreme Court. U.S. versus Google. What each side argued for fixing the Google ad tech monopoly. The New York Times. Supreme Court justice retired and wrote a book. Opinion. Justice Anthony Kennedy. The origin of equal justice under law. The New York Times. Texas. Trump military. Texas troops head to Chicago as Trump weighs use of emergency powers. The New York Times. Trump actions. Besant taps Social Security chief to serve as CEO of IRS. The New York Times. Trump economics. How stocks can be quietly stolen from your IRA. The New York Times. Trump economy. Gold price nears $4,000 an ounce. A sign of turmoil and unease. The New York Times. Trump Epstein fallout. Supreme Court rejects appeal from Ghislaine Maxwell. Longtime Epstein associate. The New York Times. Trump Epstein fallout. Supreme Court returns to face Trump tests of presidential power. The New York Times. Trump live updates Democrats and Republicans trade barbs over government shutdown. The New York Times. Trump military opinion. No, Trump cannot order troops to wherever he wants. The New York Times. Trump military opinion. Political violence threats to free speech. A disinformation crisis we have been here before. The New York Times. Trump military opinion. The civil war on the right over who really killed Charlie Kirk. The New York Times. Trump military opinion. Trump is not afraid of civil war, neither is Stephen Miller. The New York Times. Trump military opinion. The Trump shutdown glee could come back to bite him. The New York Times. Trump military. Pentagon relaxes press access rules. The New York Times. Trump military processing the government shutdown in a divided America. The New York Times. Trump military shutdown politics has Republicans singing the government praises. The New York Times. Trump military. The fight at the center of the government shutdown. The New York Times. Trump military. Trump gave partisan speech to Navy troops as he deployed troops to U.S. cities. The New York Times. Trump military. Trump said he could invoke the Insurrection Act to deploy troops. Here's what to know. The New York Times. Trump military. Trump says he is open to negotiating over shutdown, then backtracks. The New York Times. Trump military. We asked 50 legal experts about the Trump presidency. They are very worried. The New York Times. Trump Supreme Court. Trump and the Supreme Court. The New York Times. Washington State Capitol ingress and fires man breaks into Washington State Capitol toppling statues and setting fire. The New York Times. Women work opinion. American women are leaving the workforce. Why? The New York Times Mexico can sweet songs prevail over bloody ones. Mexico is giving it a try. The New York Times France energy giant sees opportunity in the volatile electricity market. The New York Times France government is gone again. What comes next? The New York Times France French Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu resigns. The New York Times France. With the Sébastien Lecornu resignation, France faces increasing turmoil. The New York Times Ukraine's secret weapons spending faces questions after internal review. The New York Times Russia welcomes the Trump blessing of proposal to extend caps on nuclear weapons. The New York Times Syria chooses a parliament of revolutionaries. The New York Times Freebie headlines. The Guardian October 6, 2025 Arkansas nature black bear who killed camper in Arkansas shot dead by officials. Arkansas. The Guardian Aviation U.S. says subsidies for rural airline service to expire as soon as Sunday. Trump administration. The Guardian Aviation U.S. skydiving instructor found dead after apparently falling without parachute. Nashville. The Guardian Bari Weiss Republican Bari Weiss named editor-in-chief of CBS News as Paramount buys free press startup CBS. The Guardian Bari Weiss Republican ascension to top of CBS News highlights the political winds driving U.S. media rightward. CBS. The Guardian Bari Weiss Republican CBS News staffers react to Bari Weiss being named editor-in-chief. It is utterly depressing. CBS. The Guardian California Aviation no air traffic control crew at busy LA airport amid government shutdown staffing crunch. California. The Guardian Consumers coffee instant coffee versus drip. Our blind taste test may unravel your assumptions. Life and style. The Guardian Consumers Games. I was falling hard for Claire Obscure Expedition 33. Then it betrayed me at the final hour. Games. The Guardian Consumers Pets. My pet sleeps all day and all night. Is that normal? Well, actually, the Guardian Consumers reading the one change that worked. I was lost in the infinite scroll until a small ritual renewed my love of reading books. The Guardian Consumers reading Russian books. The Pushkin Job unmasking the thieves behind an international rare books heist books. The Guardian Government shutdown. Democrats. Schumer rejects the Trump claim that bipartisan government shutdown negotiations are underway. Live government shutdown. Democrats. U.S. shutdown enters second week as Senate votes again on funding bill. U.S. federal government shutdown 2025. The Guardian Jane Goodall said she would launch Trump and Musk on one-way trip into space. Jane Goodall. The Guardian Jimmy Kimmel more popular than Trump after show suspension poll finds Trump. The Guardian John Oliver on Paramount soulless ethically bankrupt corporation. John Oliver. The Guardian Human interest. You cannot just press undo on your life. To move forward you must first feel your grief and rage. Mental health. The Guardian Illinois Trump military judge refuses to block the Trump deployment of National Guard to Illinois. ICE U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. The Guardian Louisiana New Orleans couple discovers ancient Roman grave marker in their yard. New Orleans. The Guardian Medicine and Health. Is it true that you get shorter as you get older? Life and style. The Guardian Movie logs falling from the sky. The harrowing true story behind wildfire drama. The Lost Bus. Paul Greengrass. The Guardian Medicine and Science Nobel Committee unable to reach prize winner who is living his best life hiking off-grid. Nobel Prizes. The Guardian Medicine and Science Nobel Prize in Medicine awarded to scientists for immune system research. Nobel Prizes. The Guardian Medicine and Science Nobel Prize in Physics awarded to 3 scientists for work on quantum mechanics. Nobel Prize in Literature. The Guardian Movie one bladder after another. Why bros are finally having to queue for the Lou. Emma Beddington. The Guardian Movies Daniel Day-Lewis is cross that people equate method acting with behaving like a lunatic. That is exactly why we love it. Movies. The Guardian Music. Should I pay heed to this swift dismissal? Taylor Swift. The Guardian Oregon Trump military Republicans post fake image of Oregon protest using photos of South America. Portland. The Guardian RFK Junior RAWSEP View lack of scientific and medical credibility along with tax breaks for the rich at the expense of a healthcare safety net and access to vaccines for the poor and middle class and the rich as well. From the article headline The Real Goal of Make America Healthy Again. Woo-woo treatments for the rich shrinking healthcare for the poor. Alexander Avila. The Guardian RFK Junior Republicans conspiracy theories which may be monetized to benefit Maha founders Callie and Casey. Means definition of woo-woo. RAWSEP View. Is woo-woo a pejorative term used about Republican conspiracy theories applied to everyday life? From the article headline Cycle tracking is not woo-woo or a tradwife tool. It is essential education for everyone no matter the gender. Freya Bennett excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. The Guardian. Woo-woo. RAWSEP was right. Woo-woo is a derogatory and informal noun or adjective. It means one is a noun. Unconventional beliefs regarded as having little or no scientific basis, especially those relating to spirituality, mysticism, or alternative medicine. Some kind of metaphysical woo-woo. It means two as an adjective. Woo-woo relating to or holding unconventional beliefs regarded as having little or no scientific basis, especially those relating to spirituality, mysticism, or alternative medicine. Quartz crystals that were so popular with the woo-woo crowd. AI overview. Cycle tracking refers to the process of monitoring and recording various aspects of the menstrual cycle of a person, typically with the goal of understanding fertility, predicting ovulation, and or preventing pregnancy. Limitations of cycle tracking accuracy. Not all methods are equally reliable, especially for individuals with irregular cycles. Requires commitment. Consistent tracking is essential for accurate results. May not be suitable for everyone. People with certain medical conditions or those taking certain medications may not be able to use cycle tracking effectively. It is important to note that cycle tracking is a tool that can be helpful, but it is not a substitute for medical advice. If you have any concerns about your menstrual cycle or fertility, it is recommended to consult with a healthcare professional. RAWSEP was right. Cycle tracking will probably be monetized by the Maha crowd and be compensated by health savings accounts of the rich. South Carolina judge who Trump considers an enemy fire engulfs home of South Carolina judge who had received death threats. U.S. politics. The Guardian Supreme Court Christian group deceives Supreme Court about LGBTQ plus research cited scholars say U.S. Supreme Court. The Guardian Supreme Court. U.S. Supreme Court begins new term with the democratic governance of America at stake. U.S. Supreme Court. The Guardian Texas Trump military. Texas National Guard troops Head to Illinois after judge fails to block move U.S. immigration. The Guardian Trump air pollution assistance outcry as Trump plots more roads. And logging in U.S. forest, you can almost hear the chainsaws. Virginia, the Guardian Trump billionaires boom time. For U.S. billionaires, why the system perpetuates wealth inequality. The super rich, the Guardian Trump military. Trump threatens to invoke Insurrection Act as Bondi faces Senate. U.S. politics live. Trump military, what to know about the Trump National Guard deployment from rulings to protests. Trump administration, the Guardian Trump tariffs, Supreme Court tariffs, conversion therapy, and mail ballots. Key U.S. Supreme Court cases to watch this term. U.S. Supreme Court, the Guardian Canada, Nature Marine Park threatens to euthanize 30 whales if Canada does not provide funding. Canada, the Guardian Brazil, Lula, the president of Brazil, asked U.S. to scrap tariffs in friendly call with Trump. Brazil, the Guardian AI overview, the current president of Brazil, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, is known by his widely used nickname Lula. The nickname Lula is a common affectionate name for Luiz. In Brazil, he formally added the nickname to his legal name in 1982. The term Lula is also the Portuguese word for squid. Venezuela, on edge over Trump regime change whispers. If it does happen, we are ready. Venezuela, the Guardian, United Kingdom Labour Party. A united Labour Party is making Britain work better for all. We cannot allow our mission to be disrupted. Bridget Phillipson, the Guardian, United Kingdom, nuclear radiation, air pollution. It is Sellafield or nothing. What life is like growing up in the shadow of the oldest nuclear site. In Europe, young people, the Guardian, United Kingdom, possible racism. Badenoch defends the generic no white faces comments about Birmingham. Kemi Badenoch, the Guardian, France. Paroxysm of disposability, the distaste of France for the shine fast fashion shine. The Guardian, France is in crisis, but bond markets leave other governments at risk of meltdown. 2 economics, the Guardian, France. French PM in final bid to salvage cabinet amid political turmoil. Europe live, France. Macron should announce early election, says former PM, as the political crisis in France deepens. France, the Guardian, France. What happened on a chaotic day in French politics, and what next? France, the Guardian, Ukraine war briefing. Trump says he would want to know the Kyiv plans for Tomahawk missiles before supplying them. Ukraine, the Guardian, Israel, Israelis gather to mark 2 years since October 7th Hamas attack that killed 1,200. Israel, the Guardian, India, fast fashion, recycling, how the cast-off capital of the world is making Indian factory workers sick. Global development, the Guardian. For Google alerts, October 6th, 2025 for a United States PM 2.5, why is smoke a health concern? U.S. EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, EPA excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. Wildfire smoke contains PM 2.5 that can be easily inhaled and lead to a range of health effects that have been well established by decades. Of smoke is a health concern due to its composition as a complex mixture of gases and fine particles produced when wood and other organic materials burn. The biggest health threat from smoke is from fine particles, which can penetrate deep into the lungs and cause a range of health problems from burning eyes and a runny nose to aggravated chronic heart and lung diseases. Exposure to particle pollution is even linked to premature death. It is especially important for individuals with heart or lung disease, older adults, children, and people with diabetes. To pay attention to local air quality reports during a fire. U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, United States PM 2.5 long-term exposures to PM 2.5 components increase the breast cancer mortality in the BMC Cancer Biomed Central. PM 2.5 refers to fine particulate matter with an aerodynamic diameter less or equal to 2.5 micrometers, which is an essential component of air. United States PM 2.5 climate change, an increased risk of respiratory infections in humans. PMC National Institutes of Health, NIH.gov. Climate change exacerbates air pollution through the accumulation of greenhouse gases and fine particulate matter. PM 2.5 and PM 10 respectively. Both United States 4 best heat pumps of 2025 according to testing excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. Good housekeeping, this technology has so much upside. For starters, installing a heat pump is one of the most efficient ways to heat and cool your house. That is right. AI overview for a combination of cutting-edge features, quiet operation, and high efficiency. The Train True Comfort 20 stands out, while the Friedrich Breeze Universal offers excellent value. With high efficiency and a compact design, the Carrier Infinity series is ideal for extreme cold climates, delivering consistent comfort, and the Daikin Fit is a strong choice for a high-quality quiet inverter system for advanced performance and smart features. Train True Comfort 20 Pro's award-winning innovation delivers precision climate control with variable speed tech, excellent cold climate performance, and integrates with smart home systems for remote monitoring and diagnostics. Cons: premium price point for high efficiency and value. Friedrich Breeze Universal Pro's high CO2 rating for significant energy savings. Inverter technology for quiet operation and precise control. Compact design and eligibility for tax credits. Cons: may require professional installation for extreme cold climates. Carrier Infinity series. Pros: exceptional cold climate heating performance, providing up to 100% heating capacity in sub-zero temperatures. Cons: high efficiency models come with a premium price for quiet operation and inverter technology. Daikin Fit Pros operates very quietly, ideal for homeowners seeking minimal noise disturbance and utilizes inverter technology for smooth and efficient operation. Cons: availability may be limited to certain regions. United States American Lung Association report reveals which promising tech could prevent the cool down. Upgrading to a heat pump will tackle both of those problems rather than generating heat. A heat pumps simply transfer heat in the air from one place to the American Lung Association found in its study that if manufacturers switch to heat pumps for their heating needs, it would have an incredibly positive effect on the health of Americans. 4B United States swap your boiler for a money-saving heat pump. Popular science: heat pumps date back to the 1850s and are more energy efficient than furnaces or boilers. Image shown by Getty Images. Get the Popular Science Daily Swap Your Boiler for a money-saving heat pump. Heat pumps can save you about $370 per year and are good for the planet. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. Popular Science, October 2nd, 2025. Colder weather is quickly approaching, which means it is time for many folks to start cranking up the heat in their homes and apartments. But for many Americans, heating up their homes is a costly affair. and it is only getting more expensive. New research from the National Energy Assistance Directors Association (NIADA) estimates that prices for heating a home will increase by about 7.6% from the 2024 winter heating average. One often touted way to slim down your energy usage is switching to a heat pump instead of using an old-fashioned furnace or boiler. This swap can be very cost-effective, saving about $370 per year. The costs continue to drop over time, but the key is to start thinking about how realistic it is to get a heat pump in your home. Now, even if your HVAC is in perfect shape, if your heating system dies in the middle of the winter, you are not going to spend 3 weeks getting the right contractors. I would recommend that people spend a little bit of time thinking of what they want to do in the future with their home. United States homeowner shares candid review after installing heat pump HVAC and sweltering garage. The cool down minimize the energy costs of your home by using a heat pump. This video shows how one family keeps their garage at the perfect temperature for free. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity. In relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. AI overview. A homeowner installed a ductless mini split heat pump in their hot garage using solar power to run the system and shared a positive review highlighting year-round comfort and significant energy savings even during the summer. The system was powered entirely by solar panels and battery storage, resulting in zero electricity costs for the heating and cooling needs for the garage. Key benefits: year-round comfort. The heat pump provides both cooling in the summer and heating in the winter, turning the previously sweltering garage into a comfortable, usable space. Energy independence and cost savings by powering the heat pump with a solar array and battery storage. The homeowner achieved a zero cost operating expense for the garage, saving money on electricity. Quiet and efficient operation. Ductless mini split heat pumps are known for their quiet operation and high efficiency compared to traditional heating methods, as they transfer heat rather than generated. Installation and system details. Ductless mini split system. This type of heat pump is ideal for spaces like garages without existing ductwork, as it uses an indoor unit to distribute heated or cooled air. Solar power integration. The homeowner integrated the heat pump with a solar panel system and battery bank, enabling it to run entirely on solar energy and making it completely off-grid for that particular function. The experience of reviewers. The homeowner used the heat pump system in their garage to manage both hot summer days and cold winter conditions, with the primary goal of transforming the garage from a sweltering space into a comfortable area. The video review details the entire setup, which shows the EG4 mini split heat pump connected to solar panels on the yard and a battery system. According to the cool down, United States heat pumps can help alleviate residential energy insecurity in the USA. Nature heat pumps provide both heating and cooling and can reduce the need for people to limit their energy use due to high energy bills as they operate. United States HVAC startup rolls out major update that dramatically boosts performance. The cool down. Despite the name, heat pumps function as both a heater and a cooling system by moving heat around the space in an energy-efficient manner rather than. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity. In relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. Quilt, a heat pump startup, is one of the first to install a software update remotely, and it was one with a major impact. Its update increased the function of the heating and cooling capabilities by more than 20%. From the very beginning, we wanted to design the systems to be able to be continuously improved, updated over the air. It is a pattern that has happened in EVs and gotten a lot of traction, but no one had really done that before in HVAC. The CEO of Quilt told TechCrunch, in cars sometimes they call it software-defined vehicles. We feel like we have created software-defined HVAC. United States interested in a high-tech kitchen? There is $840 up for grabs when you upgrade to state of the cool down. Rebate of up to $840. You can even regulate temperatures in each room with individually controlled all-electric heat pump systems. United States 9/11 dust exposure linked to blood mutations in responders. Air quality news. Wood burning and cooking to be covered by conference discussion panel. Children are losing millions of healthy years to secondhand smoke. A study. United States confused homeowner speaks up after spotting frustrating trend among plumbers. The cool down. Switching from a regular electric water heater to a heat pump model can save you over $500 per year on energy bills, according to Energy Star. United States homeowner shares honest thoughts after ditching water heater for trendy model. The cool down heat pump water heaters have been receiving a lot of attention lately due to the federal incentives available for this energy efficient upgrade. California Vallejo less fireplace cuddling cleaner air and store air district says Times Herald Online. Wood stove or other wood burning like cigarette smoke. Wood smoke contains carcinogenic substances such as benzene and polycyclic aromatic. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity. In relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. A change in Bay Area district regulations means Vallejoans will have fewer opportunities to cuddle in front of the fireplace or light up the fire pit for a party. At the same time, the change means Vallejo and Bay Area residents will be living in an environment with cleaner air. According to the district, it will reduce harmful wood smoke exposure and build up through more health protective standard. California lawmakers take bold action to make new buildings safer. It is an absolute need. The cool down. New heat pump legislation looks to slash carbon pollution in California. Here is how it will impact homeowners. 3C California, San Francisco Bay Area spare the air alerts to become more frequent after air regulators lower threshold. CBS News. Wood burning fireplaces or outdoor fire pits. Wood burning fireplaces or outdoor fire pits. In a press release on Wednesday, the Bay Area air. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity. In relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. AI overview. Spare the air alerts could double in Bay Area under new rule. Bay Area air quality regulators lowered the fine particulate matter threshold for spare the air alerts from 35 to 25 micrograms per cubic meter, which is expected to more than double the annual number of alerts to an estimated 19 to 41 days from a historical average of about 15. This change, approved by The Bay Area Air District Board and Effective immediately aims to protect residents from harmful wood smoke at lower concentrations. What this means for residents: more frequent wood burning bans. The stricter standard means spare the air alerts, which typically ban most wood burning, will be issued more often during the winter months. Healthier air. The new threshold is a stricter, more health protective standard that provides greater protection from fine particulate matter. A key component of wood smoke. How to stay informed. To find out when a spare the air alert is in effect, residents can sign up for text or email alerts on the Spare the Air website or by visiting BAQMD.gov. California. San Francisco. Wealthy San Francisco residents outraged by trendy new wood-fired grill restaurant. Daily Mail. It seems the best the owner can do is to stop using the wood-burning stove and cook the way most restaurants cook, she told the paper. A new French restaurant. Wealthy San Francisco residents outraged by trendy new wood-fired grill restaurant belching fumes into their neighborhood. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to Residents Against Wood Smoke Emission Particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. Daily Mail. October 1st, 2025. A new San Francisco restaurant has become the focus of a neighborhood row after residents claimed its wood-fired grill is filling the area with smoke and triggering health problems. La Cigale, a 16-seat French restaurant in Glen Park, opened this summer under chef Joseph Magedo. The kitchen has no gas equipment, relying entirely on an open hearth where meat and vegetables are cooked over burning wood. Neighbors say the constant smoke has left them suffering from headaches, coughing fits, and asthma attacks. Some families claimed they are even considering moving out, fearing the impact on their children. A woman who is 8 months pregnant said her air purifier turned red as smoke entered her home. We want the downtown of Glen Park to be revitalized, and we want this restaurant to thrive, but not at the expense of our health, she told the SF Chronicle, adding that she has suffered headaches, watery eyes, and coughing fits. Longtime resident Lori Feldman said her asthma has worsened to the point where she now uses an inhaler several times a week. It seems the best the owner can do is to stop using the wood-burning stove and cook the way most restaurants cook, she told the paper. A new French restaurant, La Cigale, in San Francisco has sparked a neighborhood feud over smoke from its wood-fired grill. A new French restaurant, La Cigale, in San Francisco, has sparked a neighborhood feud over smoke from its wood-fired grill. Wood-burning ovens and grills, long seen as a hallmark of fine dining, are now facing growing scrutiny over health risks. Wood-burning ovens and grills, long seen as a hallmark of fine dining, are now facing growing scrutiny over health risks. Chef Joseph Magedo built his 16-seat restaurant entirely around a wood-burning hearth. There is no gas equipment in the kitchen. One chef built his 16-seat restaurant entirely around a wood-burning hearth. There is no gas equipment in the kitchen. Insists he has invested heavily in safety measures, spending about $50,000 to extend the chimney of the restaurant above nearby rooftops and adding filters to catch sparks and particles, but complaints have continued, and he admits further upgrades, such as a $75,000 pollution control system, may be needed. We are operating in good faith, he said. Our feeling is that certain people may only be satisfied with a 100% perfect solution, and that solution is unlikely to be 100% perfect. But does smoke from these grills pose a real health threat? According to the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency (EPA), wood smoke contains fine particles and toxic gases that can irritate the lungs, trigger asthma, and even increase the risk of heart attacks and strokes. Wood smoke is a complex mixture of gases and fine particles that can harm your health, and people with asthma, children, and older adults are especially at risk, the agency warns. Research published in Environmental Health Perspectives has shown that wood smoke contains carcinogens such as formaldehyde and benzoapyrene, and long-term exposure is linked to reduced lung function and chronic bronchitis. Restaurant workers are particularly vulnerable. A 2017 study on cooking smoke exposure found that chefs and kitchen staff regularly exposed to grill fumes reported significantly higher rates of coughing, wheezing, and other respiratory symptoms compared with control groups. Neighbors say air purifiers have turned red inside their homes, signaling dangerous air quality as smoke drifts, and neighbors say air purifiers have turned red inside their homes, signaling dangerous air quality as smoke drifts. And chefs across the Bay Area have spent tens of thousands on filters and scrubbers to reduce smoke complaints from neighbors. Chefs across the Bay Area have spent tens of thousands on filters and scrubbers to reduce smoke complaints from neighbors. Taddock Grill, one of the oldest restaurants in San Francisco, still cooks over charcoal, but in 2022, it was cited for failing to protect workers from harmful exposure. The American Lung Association has also cautioned that wood smoke is a major source of particle pollution indoors and outdoors. Breathing particle pollution can trigger asthma attacks, cause coughing, wheezing, and shortness of breath, and even lead to premature death in people with heart or lung disease. The group states the dispute reflects a wider problem across the U.S., where smoke from wood-fired cooking has become a flashpoint. New York City pizza joints are being forced to raise prices to cover the cost of new air filtration systems after the city introduced strict emissions rules. Mayor Eric Adams signed off on a 2024 plan requiring wood and coal-fired ovens to slash smoke output by 75%, impacting more than 130 businesses. Restaurants can apply for an exemption, but only if they prove they cannot afford the upgrades. The mandate has cost iconic pizzerias tens of thousands. At Pizza of Grimalden owner said one unit cost $50,000. We have to do it. We cannot cook pizza any other way, said, noting coal ovens must reach 1,200 degrees to bake a pie. John of Bleecker Street, one of the oldest coal-fired pizzerias in the city, spent more than $100,000. We were told we had no choice. We have no business without our oven. The manager said some restaurants have spent up to $75,000 on pollution control systems to cut down on fumes. Chefs have argued the changes are costly but unlikely to ruin the taste of the famous pizzas of New York. I do not think it will impact the flavor that much. Professional chef said it is impossible to get the smoke out completely unless you use an electric oven. The ones that will suffer most are probably Neapolitan pizzas. Still, Sanchez noted cooks will adapt, say they really need smoke in the dish, then they might use a mozzarella that was previously smoked or spec ham, which is really smoky too. Colorado HVAC tech stunned after seeing the performance of the heat pump in single-digit weather. The cool down. One HVAC tech shared in the HVAC subreddit that even in single-digit temperatures, a heat pump they would install kept the home of a customer at a toasty 77 degrees. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to Residents Against Wood Smoke Emission Particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization. One HVAC tech shared in the HVAC subreddit that even in single-digit Temperatures a heat pump they would installed kept the home of a customer at a toasty 77 degrees Fahrenheit, even without a backup heating system. Pretty impressed by the Carrier Comfort heat pump units. They wrote heat pumps outperform traditional HVAC systems in energy efficiency, with the clean energy nonprofit Rocky Mountain Institute reporting that heat pumps are between 2.2 and 4.5 times more efficient than Energy Star rated gas furnaces. This increased efficiency translates to lower energy bills as it reduces electricity consumption by around 75% per the Department of Energy. And since heat pumps can both heat and cool your home, you can enjoy savings all year round. You can also snag a 30% tax credit up to $2,000 for qualifying heat pumps through the Inflation Reduction Act, though you will want to act by December 31st when the incentives will expire. Colorado homeowner questions popular HVAC upgrade after receiving enticing installation offer. The cool down. A homeowner in the Denver, Colorado area turned to the internet for advice about upgrading to an electric heat pump. Georgia Troup County 3 ways to get from Lagrange Daily News. The size of the rebate or tax credit you can get depends on your household income, heat pump, electric stove, or other improvements for households. Illinois Republican state officials propose rebate program for middle-class families struggling to pay their utilities. The cool down heat pump systems with an energy-efficient all-climate system from Mitsubishi, you can reduce the amount of energy needed to heat and cool your Indiana. West Lafayette Purdue University study finds wood-burning stoves hurt lungs like cigarette smoke. Health Purdue exponent scientists say trendy indoor wood burners at home can lead to a decline in lung function by causing inflammation. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP. For brevity and clarity in relationship to Residents Against Wood Smoke Emission Particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization using a trendy indoor wood burner at home can lead to a decline in lung function by causing inflammation, say scientists. The use of solid fuel for domestic heating has soared in the UK and Europe, particularly among wealthy families, due to the marketing of wood as renewable energy and high fossil fuel prices. In the UK, the proportion of harmful PM 2.5 air pollution known as fine particulate matter caused by domestic solid fuel is now 20% of the total, compared with 4% for road vehicle exhaust emissions. Annual emissions specifically from domestic wood burning almost doubled from 3,200 tons in 2009 to 6,000 tons in 2023, building on a previous study that mapped the use of solid fuel burning stoves across the UK. Researchers used data from the English longitudinal study of aging (ELSA) to look at the connection between self-reported solid fuel use at home in England and lung function decline. The team lung function of assessed patients according to a measure called FEV1, which quantifies the amount of air a person can forcefully exhale in the first second of a breath. Lower FEV1 values are associated with increased risk of respiratory complications and poorer health, making it a key marker for monitoring diseases such as asthma and chronic obstructive pulmonary disease (COPD). Study leader Dr. Laura Horsful said, "We know wood burning at home emits harmful air pollution both indoors and outdoors, including known carcinogens. Despite this, air pollution from this source has approximately doubled in the UK since 2009 as more people install and use wood stoves. However, the link with health outcomes in high-income countries is not well understood, and residential areas with high emissions are hard to identify using existing air quality monitoring networks." Dr. Horsful, principal research fellow at the Institute of Health Informatics at University College London UCL, explained that studying health impacts is challenging because wood-burning households tend to be wealthier and healthier overall. She said, "We found that people using solid fuel had lower rates of smoking and lung disease, which can mask the true effects of solid fuel exposure. However, using repeated lung function measurements over an 8-year period, we found that lung function declined faster among solid fuel users compared to non-users, even after adjusting for socio-economic and housing factors. This suggests an important link between solid fuel use and respiratory decline, despite the healthier baseline of the exposed group." Dr. Horsful added, "Our study suggests that high levels of particulate matter from stoves damage respiratory tissues, causing inflammation in a similar way to cigarette smoke." Dr. Horsful and her team now plan to investigate whether people living in or near areas with a high concentration of wood stoves, such as the wealthier parts of London, also show increased rates of respiratory issues, such as inhaler prescriptions and hospital visits for lung conditions. She is due to present the findings at the European Respiratory Society (RS) Congress in Amsterdam, Holland. The ERS says the study suggests that wood burners should be considered a potential environmental risk factor in the future. Professor Aine Johannesson, head of the ERS expert group on epidemiology and environment, said, "In Europe, we are seeing a growing trend for using wood-burning stoves at home. Research in other parts of the world where traditional wood burning is used in the home has shown that this is harmful and causes asthma, COPD, and lung cancer. These findings suggest that wood burners used in European homes may have similar effects and should be considered a potential environmental risk factor when assessing respiratory health, especially in patients with unexplained lung function decline or chronic respiratory symptoms." Although new eco-design European wood burners are generally considered cleaner and safer than more traditional wood stoves, many European homes still employ older wood burners, and even the newer stoves may not be entirely risk-free. Johannesson of the University of Bergen in Norway added, "This study underscores the need for clearer public health guidance and regulation around domestic wood-burning. People should be aware that these stoves could be harming them and their families, and doctors should be asking their patients about whether they are using stoves at home." Massachusetts Brewster 2025 residential rebates. Brewster, Massachusetts. Gov water heat pumps $15,000 for whole home ground source heat pumps, $750 instant savings on heat pump water heaters. Rebates may be dependent on Massachusetts. Lexington News Flash. Heat pump rebates info from Lexington Energy. Lexington, Massachusetts. Rebate. Who must install your heat pump to get a rebate? You must use a contractor from the Mass Save to receive a residential heat pump rebate. New York proud homeowner cancels oil company contracts after upgrading to ultra-efficient appliance. The cool down. When one Redditor installed a Rheem ProTerra 50-gallon heat pump water heater, they were shocked by the low energy usage. There is also a rebate worth. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to Residents Against Wood Smoke Emission Particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. Proud homeowner cancels oil company contracts after upgrading to ultra-efficient appliance. "No more playing their pricing games. It is so hard for me to wrap my head around when it comes to cutting energy bills." A Redditor in New York just showed how swapping out one home appliance can make a big difference. Wisconsin Milwaukee Gov. Evers PSC celebrate IRA home energy. Rebates now available at retail. Urban Milwaukee working in tandem with the leading rebate programs in Wisconsin for an Energy Star electric heat pump for space heating and cooling. Canada Carrier fall promotion with smarter financing backer business. While the new financing promotion is not available to contractors in Canada, rebate options are available to make high-efficiency heat pump systems. For a United Kingdom RAWSEP View, the editor of RAWSEP believes that this is misinformation or disinformation put out to farmers in the United Kingdom that heat pumps are expensive is deliberate and possibly put out by the fossil fuel industry and the wood-burning industry. The UK government is providing financial incentives to make heat pumps affordable for everyone, and as usual, the fixation on economic arguments, even if those economic arguments are not true, convinces some that these economic arguments are practical and based on reality. How about starting a discussion with true facts about negative health effects and early deaths? That would be hard for even hardened farmers to hear, but that would start a discussion with the truth about indoor residential wood burning for home heating. Insulation of homes, whether in rural areas or urban areas, should be a given. If there is not adequate insulation, the homeowner should get it. Heat pumps do not require additional insulation, but from a practical point of view, adequate insulation should be looked into. Insulation does not break the bank. Any home with walls is insulated against the elements, including the cold. United Kingdom dwellings have a reputation of not being well insulated, at least in comparison with United States homes. Since many homes still being used in the United Kingdom are hundreds of years old, alternative renewable fuels is probably a code word for wood-fired stoves, since fossil fuels are not renewable, so this appears to be false advertising for the wood-burning industry in the United Kingdom. The air pollution adverse health effects of burning wood are not mentioned in this article. Wood burning emits 2.8 times the PM 2.5 as coal burning. Wood burning emits 450 times the PM 2.5 as the fossil fuel. Natural gas burning. This data comes from testing the cleanest burning wood stove in the UK, the eco-design wood stove. To address the economic argument, as mentioned before, the UK government provides financial incentives for purchasing heat pumps that in 2025 work down to 40 degrees below zero, double as air conditioners, and lower monthly electric bills. Immediately from the article headline September 30th, 2025, who let the pigs out? Heat pump fixation? Mart socializing. BBC Sounds excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. Catch up on your favorite BBC radio show from your favorite DJ right here whenever you like. Listen without limits with BBC Sounds. Farming Today, June 10th, 2025, updated September 30th, 2025. A new report commissioned by the research body Rural England claims the government policy on rolling out environmentally friendly home heating is heat pumps or nothing. The report says heat pumps can be expensive and impractical to install in old rural housing, in part due to the insulation needed to make the pumps warm rooms efficiently. It suggests that more should be done to promote alternative renewable fuels, which could be used in existing heating systems. For United Kingdom, wood burners are bad for you. Here is why you did not notice. The Telegraph. Wood burners damage lung function, but the impact is hidden because owners are wealthier and healthier than the average person. Scientists have warned wood burners are bad for you. Here is why you did not notice. Being wealthy and healthy can mask the detrimental impact of exposure to domestic fires. Survey suggests. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity and relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. The Telegraph, September 30th, 2025. Wood burners damage lung function, but the impact is hidden because owners are wealthier and healthier than the average person. Scientists have warned. AI overview. Wood burners damage lung function, but the impact is hidden because owners are wealthier and healthier than the average person. Scientists have warned. Researchers from University College London UCL examined health and fuel use data from 11,000 people taking part in the English longitudinal study of aging over an 8-year period. They found that lung function decreased by 120 milliliters for those with wood-burning stoves compared with 70 milliliters in people with other forms of heating. Study found that wood-burning appliances were more likely to be used by white people in affluent neighborhoods and in cities, which made the damage difficult to spot because households had a baseline of better health. Dr. Laura Horsfall, principal research fellow from the Institute of Health Informatics at UCL, said, "We found that people using solid fuel had lower rates of smoking and lung disease, which can mask the true effects of solid fuel exposure. However, using repeated lung function measurements over an 8-year period, we found that lung function declined faster among solid fuel users compared to non-users, even after adjusting for socioeconomic and housing factors." This suggests an important link between solid fuel use and respiratory decline despite the healthier baseline of the exposed group. She added, "Our study suggests that high levels of particulate matter from stoves damage respiratory tissues, causing inflammation in a similar way to cigarette smoke, although the effect is not as much as smoking, which diminishes lung function by 40 milliliters to 60 milliliters a year. Experts say it could still be having an impact on health. Hopefully this research causes people to question if the payoff of having a wood burner is worth it for the detrimental impact it could have on you and the lungs of your family. It would be good to see increased awareness on the impact of wood burners with clearer information and guidance from the government on the health impact, as well as increased regulation around domestic wood burning. This study underscores the need for clearer public health guidance and regulation around domestic wood burning. People should be aware that these stoves could be harming them and their families, and doctors should be asking their patients about whether they're using stoves at home. United Kingdom new study links wood burning indoors to lung damage. RoyCastle.org. Roy Castle Lung Cancer Foundation. Could your cozy wood burning fireplace be as dangerous to your lungs as smoking cigarettes? New research. Stark warning. United Kingdom indoor wood burners linked to a decline in lung function. Nursing and practice excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity in relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates. A 501c3 nonprofit organization. Nursing and practice. People who use solid fuel wood burners for home heating may have a faster decline in lung function over 8 years compared to non-users. Indoor wood burners linked to a decline in lung function. Indoor wood Burners linked to a decline in lung function. People who use solid fuel wood burners for home heating experience a faster decline in lung function over 8 years compared to non-users. A new study suggests researchers at University College London UCL found that the use of solid fuel was associated with a more rapid decline in FEV, a key indicator of lung capacity and respiratory health, and is linked to an increased risk of COPD and asthma. The findings presented at the European Respiratory Society Congress 2025 in Amsterdam suggested that high levels of particulate matter from stoves damage respiratory tissues, causing inflammation in a similar way to cigarette smoke. Related article: over 1 million children living in homes causing asthma and chronic illness. The researchers now plan to investigate whether people living in or near areas with a high concentration of wood stoves, such as the wealthier parts of London, also exhibit increased rates of respiratory issues, including prescriptions for inhalers and hospital visits for lung conditions. United Kingdom: how wood burners can really impact your health. Yahoo Life: UK woman putting a well-dried log into a glowing wood-burning stove. The use of wood burners in the UK has nearly doubled since 2009. United Kingdom: wood-burning stoves may damage lungs like smoking. Study warns. The Times of India. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity. In relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates, a 501c3 non-profit organization. The Times of India. A new study warns that indoor wood-burning stoves significantly damage lung capacity comparable to cigarette smoking. Even among healthier users, wood-burning stoves may damage lungs like smoking. Study warns. A new study warns that indoor wood-burning stoves significantly damage lung capacity comparable to cigarette smoking even among healthier users. Despite these growing health risks and increased air pollution, their use is rising in the UK. Health experts and campaigners are now urgently calling for tougher regulations and bans on these stoves. The study, funded by the Wellcome Trust, is observational and has not yet been peer-reviewed. Still, campaigners and medical bodies are urging tougher regulations. Groups such as Mums for Lungs are calling for a phase-out of new stoves within a few years and bans on non-essential burning by the 2030s. The Royal College of Pediatrics and Child Health has urged a ban on wood burners in urban areas, while doctors in Scotland and environmental health groups have pressed for similar restrictions. Regulators are now under pressure to act, with mounting evidence that even modern eco-design stoves may not be safe. For Europe: indoor wood burners linked to a decline in lung function. Eureka alert. Excerpts edited by RAWSEP for brevity and clarity. In relationship to residents against wood smoke emission particulates, a 501c3 nonprofit organization, using a wood-burning stove at home can lead to a decline in lung function, according to research presented at the European Respiratory Society. Using a wood-burning stove at home can lead to a decline in lung function, according to research presented at the European Respiratory Society Congress in Amsterdam, the Netherlands. The study was presented by Dr. Laura Horsfall, Principal Research Fellow from the Institute of Health Informatics, University College London, UK. The use of solid fuel for domestic heating has increased in Europe due to the marketing of wood as renewable energy and high fossil fuel prices. In the UK, the proportion of harmful PM2.5 air pollution, fine particulate matter caused by domestic solid fuel, is now 20% of the total, compared with 4% for road vehicle exhaust emissions. Annual emissions specifically from domestic wood burning almost doubled from 3,200 tons in 2009 to 6,000 tons in 2023. Public health guidance. Researchers emphasize the need for better public health guidance and stricter regulations regarding domestic wood burning. Medical awareness. Doctors should inquire about wood stove use during patient visits, especially when patients present with unexplained lung function decline or chronic respiratory symptoms. Public awareness. The public needs to be more aware that wood burning stoves can be a significant health risk to themselves and their families, despite their trendy appeal. Switzerland heat pump optimization. Comparative study of different optimization algorithms and heat MDPI. More energy efficient heat pumps can be designed if the industry is able to identify reliable optimization schemes able to predict how a fixed China PM2.5 assessment of health economic losses caused by PM2.5 and ozone pollution in Beijing and Tianjin. Nature. Therefore, compared with other methods, the Poisson regression relative risk model is more suitable for modeling PM2.5 and ozone pollution data too. China PM2.5 impact of long-term exposure to PM2.5 and its components on the risk of chronic lung. BMC Public Health Biomed Central. Epidemiological evidence indicates a close association between particulate matter with an aerodynamic diameter of fewer than 2.5 micrometer PM2.5 and China PM2.5 modulation of wintertime PM2.5 concentration in the Fenway Plain by Eurasian, like pattern science. Direct.com. After 2037, there may be more frequent PM2.5 pollution events and pollution extreme in the Fenway Plain under high emission scenarios. Abstract. The China PM2.5 nitrate driven extreme winter PM2.5 pollution in Shanghai, China. In PJ Clean Air. Nature. The intensity and frequency of severe fine particulate matter PM2.5 pollution events in Shanghai have reduced following strict emission controls. China PM2.5 enhances DRP1-mediated mitochondrial fission to induce ferroptosis and exacerbate Science. Direct.com. PM2.5 activates AHR-PKM2 ferroptosis in bronchial epithelial cells to worsen asthma. Isolicoritiginin prevents PM2.5 induced activation of AHR. Notice: because of a lapse in government funding, the information on this website may not be up-to-date. Transactions submitted via the website may not be processed, and the agency may not be able to respond to inquiries until appropriations are enacted. The NIH Clinical Center. The Research Hospital of NIH is open. For more details about its operating status, please visit CC.NIH.gov. Updates regarding government operating status and resumption of normal operations can be found at OPM.gov. China PM2.5 study of socioeconomic differences of long-term PM2.5 exposure and population mortality risk. Biomed Central. Among air pollutants, fine particulate matter PM2.5 particles within final PM2.5 estimates were obtained by correcting CMAQ simulations with the association between PM2.5 and mortality varied by socioeconomic status, demonstrating a U-shaped pattern with the highest mortality risk observed among residents in cities with both the lowest and highest socioeconomic levels. Korea PM 2.5 particulate matter 2.5 promotes pulmonary fibrosis and allergic asthma through macrophage science direct com abstract. Inhaled particulate matter 2.5 PM 2.5 less than or equal to 2.5 micrometers exacerbates airway inflammation and promotes fibrosis and allergic asthma. However, most collectively these results demonstrate that PM 2.5 promotes pulmonary fibrosis beyond airway inflammation through macrophage reprogramming into a mixed M2AM2BM2C profile highlighting macrophage plasticity as a key mechanism in allergic asthma. Cat's corner strategy with Tiger and Leone. Saying the quiet part out loud. Roar. Hi, I am Tiger. Our human asked us to get up from our naps and start Cat's corner strategy with Tiger and Leone. She gave us a list of internet allies which we will post for her here.
Hi, I am Leone. It is better for your mental fitness to go to these websites than to go to bro sites for advice. Substack letters from an American Heather Cox Richardson. Substack your local epidemiologist. The Midas Touch. The Guardian. The New York Times.
One introduction. RAWSEP View. The United States government was on track in the Biden administration to reduce the prices for both clean energy heat pumps and clean energy electric cars. Trump tariffs are expected to upset those plans to prevent future air pollution and prevent climate change. The United States government should, instead of certifying wood stoves as safe when they are not safe, go forward with regulations that ban wood stove use and direct government money for use of forest refuse only for home building and furniture building. For just a few examples of use of forest products for non-burning uses, it is well known from scientific and medical research that wood burning is a substantial source of PM 2.5 emissions, yet the wood burning industry uses the scientifically debunked theory named carbon neutrality of wood burning to argue that wood burning replacing coal burning in industry, and in a trickle-down argument that wood burning should continue for home heating should continue. Presumably because it is called renewable, wood may be renewable in the sense that a tree can be planted in the place of a cut-down burned tree, but it takes centuries or decades for the newly planted tree to attain the stature of the cut-down burned tree. During those centuries or decades, photosynthesis, which converts CO2 to oxygen, and so sequesters some carbon, will not take place at the same rate as photosynthesis was performed previously, and wood burning emits both CO2 and PM 2.5, and PM 2.5 is not absorbed by trees, so PM 2.5 is not diminished by planting a tree in the place of a cut-down and burned tree. In fact, a living tree closes its pores against the presence of PM 2.5 from nearby wood burning, just as humans hold their breath in the presence of PM 2.5 from nearby wood burning. And when a tree closes its pores, the level of photosynthesis that absorbs CO2 pollution goes down. Wood burning emits 90% PM 2.5 particulate matter of 2.5 micrometer size, the perfect size to infiltrate the human lung, setting off a cascade of human health problems and early deaths. Contrary to many beliefs, wood burning emits 2.8 times the PM 2.5 as the fossil fuel coal burning, and wood burning emits 450 times the PM 2.5 as the fossil fuel natural gas burning. Replacing coal burning with wood burning creates more air pollution in the form of CO2 and PM 2.5 than coal burning. This emission data comes from testing the cleanest burning wood stove in the United Kingdom, the Eco-Design Wood Stove. An international convention does not count the emissions from wood burning. The emissions from wood burning are erased from all countries around the world when calculating if each country has met its climate goals. This non-counting or erasure of wood burning emissions data from climate goals does not mean wood burning emissions do not exist. RAWSEP View. Purple air. PM 2.5 monitors hanging from the eaves of the house of a near neighbor should be used to measure the level of PM 2.5 in the air hyperlocally in the yards of near neighbors of indoor residential wood burners. If PM 2.5 levels exceed World Health Organization standards of 5 micrograms per cubic meter annually, then that evidence of air pollution from wood burning should lead to the shutdown of that indoor residential wood burning appliance, one appliance at a time if necessary.